We'll post the recordings, always within 24 hours to make sure you can stay abreast of some of the things that's going on. But let's just keep it straight business this morning. We'll get into this thing and let's talk this PPI. We got a ton of things that's going to be brewing here in the market, opportunities galore, setups galore. So I'm excited for it. So let's just keep that energy high. I feel as if we're off to a great start to the year. So let's just keep it that way. So excited to be here with y'all this morning. Um, let's let a couple things load up. But if you have any questions, go ahead and get your questions in for me. All right. Any questions at all? Get your questions in for me here so we can get this party rolling. We do have some more bank earnings that'll be coming out here really any moment now. Some are already dropping, but we will hear for some more banking companies here today. Obviously, tech will start next week. Also, we do have a holiday on Monday, MLK Day. So shout out to MLK and everything he did. We do have an upcoming holiday. So feeling good this morning. Let me see real quick if this loads up. But let me check the chat, get any questions that we may have. Questions, questions, questions. What up, though? Yep. What's going on? Feeling good, loud and clear. Okay, cool. What's going on? I saw something about PANW and the stock is dropping. Is this a buying opportunity? So I'll pull that up for you. Give me 1 second. I don't know why my Yahoo's acting up this morning. 1 second. Great people. All right, here we go. Now it should be working. But let's talk Palo Alto Network. So PANW, the price that you want Palo Alto Network at is actually about $140. I'm gonna share my screen with you here. 1 second. Let me do that now. And there we go. Everybody should be able to see my screen. So Palo Alto Network, the price that you really want long term, which is really a great entry on Palo Alto Network for what the business is actually currently earning, is right here about $140. So you actually want to get Palo Alto Network at 140. If you can get price, if you can get the price of that stock, I feel like that's a really great price to pay for this equity. So right there at $140 is where you would want to actually go ahead and get this. I think there's something Yahoo is trying to load it on my iPad too. Let me see if it loads up on my phone. Yeah, Yahoo is buffering. It was buffering this morning. Maybe it might be something going on. Buffering. If your Yahoo is acting up, let me know. Let me know in the chat because my Yahoo is not loading up properly. But anyways, I'll be able to tell you, particularly on Palo Alto Network, you want to get PANW, you want to be able to get Palo Alto Network right here at about $140 a share. Ideally, that's a good price to actually pay for the business, right? So at 140, that's where you want to look for. All right. Yep. I'm about to get to it. So also here on the S&P 500, we do see the futures, which are, it looks like Yahoo's finally loading up a little bit. There it is. So let me go to Palo Alto Network. There we go. Started talking about it and it starts working. Just moving a little slow this morning. There it is. So if you go underneath statistics, you'll see, particularly with Palo Alto Network is right now at 683 million shares outstanding, right? So Palo Alto Networks is in a good spot where you can actually see um, really long-term wise, that 140 price makes a ton of sense. Currently, right now, they have a trailing PE of 120. So if you're looking at price today, it is a bit overvalued compared to what they earn today. But investors are expecting those earnings to tick up over the next 12 to 18 months. So this would be a opportunity if you were to see a drawdown there, it would make sense. Now, I want to show you as well on Zscaler, particularly because ZS, I actually have Zscaler, which is another cybersecurity company in the space. I'm looking for ZS to come down to about $170. I want to see ZS get that low. So I'm looking for about 170 on ZS. As you can see, we topped out again at an all-time high on ZS, well, close to an all-time high. First time we topped out was back here in 2021. The stock drew down all the way to in here in 2023 to about $80. So I'm still looking for ZS around like 150, 170. Like that's the levels that I want you guys to get exposed into the ticker, right? Realistically. So I would be looking for ZS at those levels. So if you can get ZS there, I think it'll make a ton of sense, right? I would not overpay for this company because cybersecurity companies, for the most part, are still businesses that are trying to figure out profitability. So they haven't figured out how to become profitable all the way yet. So they're still figuring things out. So it's a lot that these companies actually have to do profitability wise to get to their next level, right? So ZS played out well last year, but as you can see, ZS actually sold off all the way from 340 back to 215. And a lot has to deal with their profitability. So they're still figuring things out. So that's my thoughts there on Palo Alto Network and ZS. Also, as well, we could talk CrowdStrike, CRWD, anything underneath 400. So as you can see, me just go solo screen. CrowdStrike since August of 2024 went from $200 up here to 566. So we've had a retracement of about $100. Ideally on CrowdStrike, a price that you want to look to actually get is particularly in between 350 to pretty much 350 to 375. So that's like this area down right here where you would want to pick up Crowd. Crowd has always been a ticker that honestly, if you get like a 30% pullback, right? Usually if you're able to get that 30% pullback, you are actually able to see usually buyers step in there. So that's just really my perspective here on CrowdStrike at this time. So yeah, that's really my perspective. Crowd. Any other questions? Yeah. Any other questions? No problem. Good question. Any other questions here early in this morning? Appreciate 75 people on here early. Appreciate y'all tapping in with me here in the opening before the opening bell. Want to make sure that I provide you guys some value before that PPI comes out. We got the CPI yesterday. We started off green and then obviously turned red. You still have a couple of things that I do want to go over and highlight and speak about. One thing is BTC, right? So what's going on, my brother? BTC. We'll get Netflix for you, no worries. So Bitcoin right now, I'm gonna go to the 4 hour time frame just to zoom in and show you real quick. So it had been in this bear flag, and I got you on gold, my brother. It had been in this bear flag for a minute, but now it's at the top of the bear flag, right? I'll get you Baba as well. Now that it's at the top of the bear flag, back up here at 95,000, this is make or break time. If we're able to break over this 95K, it's likely that you're actually able to see actually us move up here to 100,000, right? So you're likely able to see us get up to 100K in the short term if we can get over this 95K. So it is likely that that could happen. On the downside action, as I stated before, the only way that we'll sell off is if we can get below this 83K. So you've been trading within this bear flag since really November 10th, right? Well, really November 15th, right? So you've been trading within this bear flag. So particularly Coinbase and MicroStrategy, you may have seen recent rallies in their stock prices. A lot of people have asked, hey, L, what do you think about getting exposed to Coinbase or getting exposed to MicroStrategy? Just my gut feeling just tells me not to trust it. Even ETH, right? Ethereum U, the 2x version of Ethereum, right? Uh, Even on ETH, I'm not in the position right now where I'm telling people, hey, I think you should jump on ETH yet. I still think that there's more downside in crypto, my personal opinion. So I would just refrain from maybe getting too aggressive, especially on anything crypto business related. So that's a MicroStrategy or Coinbase. I would hate if someone bought here and then Coinbase pulls back to 140 bucks or $160, right? And then you could have waited till then. ETH, definitely no one should be buying that until about 20 to $25. So I still think it's more downside action. Um, Particularly, obviously, you have to watch Bitcoin. So Bitcoin gets below that 83. We've made it to the back top of the bear flag. So, price can move pretty much anyway. All right. So questions as far as NFLX, which is going to be reporting here very soon. All right. So if you look at Netflix, just a couple things, right? We've highlighted Netflix here over some time. My price, just my personal price that, I've highlighted with Netflix is $55 to $65. That's the price that I say makes a ton of sense if you're thinking long-term investing wise. Now that price may not ever materialize. There's a possibility that Netflix could get down to those levels, but it is a bit slimmer. The price that we originally talked about, and hold on one second, let me make sure. NFLX. Hold on, there we go. Where is it? Yeah, it's like Yahoo Finance went to sleep this morning. But I'll pull up Netflix here now. The price that you really want to get Netflix at, or even start really paying attention to it, is about $80 to $82. Currently, it's at $91 a share, so it's up a couple bucks here in the pre-market. This $80 to $82 range marks the low of April of last year, as well as January as well. So if you're able to take out all of those buyers there, I think it's highly probable that you'll come down here to this 65 and then 55 area. So that's my initial thoughts on Netflix. Like I stated before, when I started providing coverage, I still think that this is a bit of an overpay, right? Where Netflix is currently at. So I still like another 30% to the downside before, to me, it would make sense to get really, really aggressive, right? So still another 30% downside before I would say, all right, y'all, these are levels where you would probably want to get really aggressive on purchasing some Netflix shares, right? So that's my initial thoughts, particularly on this name, right? So just my initial thoughts and wisdom right now to give you guys guidance on particularly Netflix. As far as earnings, which will take place, you can see here, earnings will take place on Tuesday of next week. So you will have the opportunity to hear from NFLX on Tuesday of next week. You can listen here for their earnings call. So Netflix, why is it showing me natural? It's like, there we go. About time. There we go. All right. So you got a 37 P to E and then a $2.39, right? EPS currently here on Netflix. So my thoughts is, particularly on Netflix, like I said, it's getting to an interesting point. I wouldn't be surprised if 80 to 82 ends up being the bottom, to be honest with you. That's just the way I wouldn't be surprised. But where I think people should be most comfortable to purchase Netflix is in between $55 to $65. So that's really realistically my thoughts on NFLX at this time. All right. Next stock that we have on the docket, company is about 14 days away till earnings, and that is ticker TSLA. A lot of questions on Tesla. You got a top line resistance level of 484 up here at 484. So until we really can break out over that, I think it's likely that we sit sideways. Now, if you're noticing a couple things here, right? You can look at this underneath $400 a share, right, as an area where Tesla, obviously, if it gets below, that's where, like, you're not going to see really any real selling on Tesla unless you get below 383. So, like, Tesla will stay within this range bound area until either a break underneath 383 happens or a close basically above 500. So it's either like either one or two of those things happen in these macro time frames. As you can see, it's just been consolidating here for a period of time. You go back to September 15th of last year. And once again, the low was here in November of last year where we sold off and buyers stepped right back in and pushed the stock up to almost 500, but then we pulled back down $50. You notice most recently we bounced at 425. So you do see, like I said, just the same range bound action over and over here on Tesla. And a lot has to do with Tesla's P to E ratio, right? Like Tesla's not a cheap company from a price to earnings perspective. This currently right now is an expensive business. So today, based upon what it's currently earning, Tesla is earning a very small amount of money compared to actually what they should be, right? Because they have a high P to E ratio. So this is definitely a company that is overvalued and ran, completely high, right? So you do see TSLA. Let me go ahead and bring their valuation up. All right. So for everybody, should be able to hear me nice and clear this morning. Let's see real quick. What's going on with Yahoo this morning? Nonetheless, we do have earnings here. Earnings estimated right now of about 45 cent, revenue of about 24 billion. So that's the estimated. To give you Tesla's PDE number, I'm not sure why it's taking so long to load up over here. All right, but to give you Tesla's PDE is currently at 312, so they're only earning $1.43 EPS. So they're earning less than $2 EPS, right? So, like I said, very, 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 very important. Only a dollar, and 20 and what is that? $1.43 EPS. So that's a low amount. That's a low amount of EPS for a company right now that's trading, here with this valuation. So you do have to look at Tesla here. And if you ask yourself, if you was to buy Tesla today, would you be paying a fair price? The question, answer to that question would be no. You would be overpaying. So that's an overpay here on a name like Tesla. So understanding the DNA of the investment that you make is utterly important. So you can really know, all right, what did I pay for here? All right. Next ticker that I have GLD, and as well I have Baba. So those are the two companies that's on the docket, or one company and one commodity on the docket. So if you're looking at gold, just to kind of recap, since the beginning of the year, you've seen gold move up here, another GLD particularly move up here even more. So I don't think that gold is going to stop. Just my personal opinion. I don't think you're going to see gold stop at all. I think gold is going to continue to probably run. So if you're looking at gold and silver, right? Silver prices right now is at 91. SLV is how you track silver. Right there on the futures. Silver is actually on the futures at, yeah, the silver future is $91, but SLV is at 83. It's up another $5 after hours. So hold on one second. Okay. SLV, right? As you can see, this move here on the upside. You look on a monthly time frame, and let me actually just go back to something. There we go. So as you can see here on silver, we actually broke up to the upside here. This was the May 2011 high, because silver, that was the last time it had gotten that high in the 40s. But as you can see, just the aggressive amount of buying that's taking place here on silver at this time, right? Silver's already ran, so to me, chasing the commodities at this point, I'm not saying that there's not no money to be made, but I think you're doing a bit more of chasing, because if you look since August, silver is up from 33 all the way up here to 83, right? If you look since August, gold is up from 300 all the way to 426. So just keep that in mind. Gold and silver in the past, silver shares trust in the past 6 months is up 124%. And then you got GLD, right, in the past 6 months is up 37%. So just let that, sink in for a second. So that's my thoughts as far as gold and silver. I think is the more things that we see happen unfold inside the government, Federal Reserve, the more that pushes people into commodities with uncertainty. Anytime there's uncertainty in the market, you're always going to see, usually, right, gold, silver, and as well Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin has been recovering as well. BTC's recovered because people are getting a little bit nervous about some of the civil things, unrest. So people like to flee the commodities and flee the things that are a little bit less decentralized. So that's why you do see gold and silver, Bitcoin running at this time. So yep. Next, next ticker that we have is ticker Alibaba. We covered this actually yesterday morning, but we're gonna cover it again here. So when you are looking at, let's see, real quick. All right, so you do have here Alibaba. The next stop to me is Alibaba can probably run to about 180 bucks. So I think you should be looking for Alibaba to get towards those levels, $180. Over this 175.22. So I'm a bit actually a bit bullish on it. And over that 180 area, you can go up to about $190. Right. So you're looking at ticker Alibaba. And I do anticipate that we can see more of a run to the upside. So I would not be surprised on BABA, right? To see more of a move there on the upside on Alibaba Inc. So next thing, let's talk about TKO. This is one I actually spoke about yesterday. Did anybody take advantage of TKO when I called out this falling wedge pattern? It was breaking out. Anybody take advantage of TKO? So this is your falling wedge right here. All right. Anybody take advantage of TKO? Yesterday we gave that. So boom, right here. So TKO breaking out. It's currently at 209 in the pre-market. Watch for this 212 level next, right? And that can be your take profit area, right? And so when you are able to see this area here, this take profit point, look over 212. Look at 212 as your profit area. So for those that were able to catch that with me, 212 would be our profit area, profit taking area. Try to find, like I said, the best high probability setups for us. So just some like quick notes for people. A lot of times people ask, like in the morning, I wake up and I see what's moving in the pre-market and I start to go over my charts and get to charting. So like I'm showing you just examples like right now, okay, it's 7 in the morning. I would say you need to spend maybe 15 to 30 minutes once you obviously it's easier when you have your charts already set up. But you notice that I go through the same, a lot of the similar tickers over and over again. Sometimes certain things are in a trading position, other times they're not, right? But in this case, if you look at right, if you look particularly here, a couple of things to actually look and watch out for is Snowflake, right? So Snowflake broke below, right, this level from December 16th yesterday. So they actually closed underneath 211, 212. So you may have seen me keep highlighting 211, 212, right, on Snow. Now, I've said this on previous Zooms, but now that Snowflake actually got below that level, now it's next for me to look at Snowflake to continue to keep coming down. So I had this 205 level, 202. So if I'm highly confident in a position now, that gives me room to take a position. Now we broke down, we made a lower low, lower high, then we just proceeded to make a lower low. Now, as I drop down on these time frames, you're going to see more patterns. If you look on an hourly, you are going to see what is called a hourly bear flag. So this is a small time frame with a bear flag pattern. So if we're to break below, right, this 207 and change, it's likely that we see price. And this is really good for my people who are doing more so short-term trading, right? You take it from the macro to the micro. So it's just like a microscope, right? You take it from the macro and you drop it to the micro. Well, now if I can see Snowflake clearly get underneath this 207, that leads me to believe that now price is going to drop to that 205. And then that can translate. I'll go back macro. And since we got a candle to close below that 211 level, that leads me to believe that price will come back down lower. So Snowflake is likely to be on my sell setup. Now, we had a brother in the beginning ask me about PANW, Palo Alto Network. But also, what did I do? I went to as well CrowdStrike. I went to Zscaler. I wanted to see if, hey, does Zscaler maybe have the same setup? Now with Snowflake, I as well always attribute Snowflake when I want to follow and take a look at a company. One good one to look at is Microsoft. Like Microsoft and Snowflake have a lot of times they move the same way. But if I'm looking here, well, Microsoft is back here at 467. I can see that here plain as day. What has been the level that I've been saying on the Zooms that if Microsoft gets below, where is it going to fall? So Microsoft, the longer that it stays below this 467, excuse me, you are going to see it get now down below to 456. So we have a move here on the downside that we can see here on MSFT. So I'm saying this now. Set your alerts on both Microsoft and as well Snowflake. Both companies, right, like to move a lot of times together. You've seen at certain points in time when Microsoft was having a major run up, right? When they were running consistently, when Microsoft was running consistently to the upside, what was happening, right? Microsoft would run and Snowflake would run, right? When Microsoft ran on their earnings, what stock followed them after hours? It was Snowflake, right? Microsoft ran, but then Snowflake. So keep your eyes peeled on both of these companies. I think it's likely that we could see, retracement to the downside on any of these specific names. So I would, like I said, I would not be surprised to see MSFT come down as well as Snowflake. Now, in that, there's also another name, right? Which is DDOG. So this gives you options, right? Now you know, okay, if I can't maybe trade afford to trade one ticker, let me check out this other ticker. What is a company that's forming a bear flag, right? So these are all the things that you should be doing in the morning because now it makes it easier for you. When you do these things in the morning, now you have some preparation. You're not guessing, you're not playing the guessing game. And like I said, these are things that you could wake up maybe a little bit early in the morning, get an extra 15, 30 minutes in if you plan to trade, right? That you can do to give yourself an edge. So you already have a game plan of saying, okay, I'm going into today knowing, okay, what's the setups, right? And we really don't encourage too much day trading around here because we're not really day traders. We look more so for position setups. But this is really good for my day traders and some of my shorter term people, right? Who are playing some of the shorter term options with me. This sets you apart because now you have a game plan clear as day of saying, hey, I know my levels of where price needs to get below or get above. If price ends up doing this, you have a game plan. So to me, it takes the guessing game out of it and it makes it a lot easier for you, right? Because now you're actually taking the information and applying it and actually plotting these points actually on your charts, right? And so with Datadog, same thing. I'm also noticing what? That there's a bit of selling. I personally would not be surprised if you saw Datadog actually come here to this downside over the next couple of weeks. I would not be surprised if you saw Datadog if it got below 120, $122 to continue to drift downward. Right. So Datadog is right back here at the lowest point it's been since August. So it's breaking below this August low. Next thing you know, Datadog will be trickling down here to the downside. So you'll be looking at DDOG pulling back down. Now you combine those tickers, Datadog, Microsoft, right, as well as Snowflake. All of those companies are in software in the software space. So combining the companies that you know, so now I look at okay, Snowflake. You now know that on Snow, this thing could probably quickly could come down to here in the 190 range. I would not be surprised, you know. So if Microsoft continues to sell off, you're likely to see more of a move here on the downside. Microsoft is obviously the leader, big domino. So when the big dog starts to tip over, what happens? The little pups start to come down too. That's one symbiotic relationship that I've realized a ton. The big dogs come down, the little pups come down too. That's how it works, right? If Amazon comes down, you best believe Shopify gonna come down. So if Amazon's down 20%, not to say it would, but I'm just giving this example, right? You're gonna see Shopify come down, right? If Amazon's doing well, Shopify may get a little bit of that good rub. If Target, Dollar General, Costco, Walmart, those four companies right there, I'll throw in BJ's as well too. Five, Costco, Walmart, right? When you take a look at them, they're symbiotic relationships. You throw in Target, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, and BJ's. All six of those companies right there. A lot of times they tend to move in unison, right? Walmart and Costco are their own pair itself, but then you have Dollar General, Target, and Dollar Tree that are right there together as well too. All right. So pay attention to how companies move together. Home Depot and Lowe's, right? In the same industry, they're going to move together, right? Now I want to make something known about this, particularly in the software space. One stock that I've spoken about, I was asked about this name months ago, and I told you I didn't like it. No disrespect to Adobe, but I personally think Adobe's going to come down more. Look at Adobe sitting right here breaking down now. It just broke down below this trend line that it had been holding since 2018, by the way. So Adobe to me, when I told people that I thought Adobe would come down to $230, $180 in that area, some people call me crazy. But one thing I'm gonna say, I'm watching these charts and I pay attention to these business models. So I look at Adobe, right? And I'm looking for Adobe to more so come to this downside more. 230, 180, that's the range. That's the range that you want to pick up Adobe at. Now, some people are looking at a $700 all-time high, this 636 back in February of last year, and it's down 50%, right? But let's take a look at what is Adobe earning? It's earning $16.71 here. So the stock has fallen 50%, right? 50% drop essentially in the stock price. but the business is actually at a fair value proposition. This is a fair, if you were to buy Adobe today, that's a fair price that you're paying. This is not a bad price that you're paying. This is a fair price, right? So this is a fair price. 13 forward PDE. I won't say main issue, right? The main thing though with Adobe, they are a low floater, right? So a $418 million, 418 million share company, right? They got equal cash to debt, so they could pay off their debt and be fine. They wouldn't have any cash left, but they're okay there. They don't need to get rid of that debt. They still got a 10% quarterly earnings growth. So this is not a bad buy. But what do we focus on? Technicals and fundamentals. So if you were strictly looking at the fundamentals, you would say that this is a nice pickup at these levels. But if you're looking at the technicals, you say, I think I could get a little lower. And so you apply, honestly, I don't believe Adobe will probably go below 200. It would maybe go to that 180 off of maybe some bad news. Once again, there's certain things you just can't plan for in the market, right? You can't time it all the way. You don't know everything. We don't sit at the boards of these companies, right? And so to me, I just look at it from, my perspective of, this is these are names that when you're trying to get, once again, exposure into particularly the market, right? This specifically is a time where I would stress to people, if you're looking at Adobe, be patient, allow price to fall into into a good range, right? And I would look for like the lower 200s before you would think about getting exposed. Is today a bad price to pay? No. But when you're looking at the chart and you see something breaking down below a level, right? It hasn't broken below in 7, 8 years. That could lead to a more of a structural drawdown. So those are my thoughts on Adobe, right? So you would definitely want, you know, in between that 200 area. Yes, sir. Good morning, my brother. Right here in between this 200 area to me is a decent spot. 180 may never materialize. If I was putting a percentage chance on it, I'd probably say anywhere in between 10 to 20%, right? I would put maybe a 10 to 20% chance you come down here. In this area, maybe a miss from Adobe on earnings that could play a role, that could draw this company stock price down. Next earnings will be Thursday, March 12th, right? Thursday, March 12th. So you can put that down. That'd be the next. But this is a solid company. If you're looking at it from a fundamental perspective, this definitely is, a not a bad price to pay. Right? Not a bad price to pay. I see someone mention Salesforce. I'm glad you did that. I'm actually about to go to Salesforce, ticker CRM next. And good morning to everybody that's just coming in. If you look on Salesforce, and I said this a little bit yesterday, right? Salesforce been range bound for the past, really since April, right? Past 8 months, right? Past 8 months, Salesforce has been range bound. So you still haven't seen Salesforce actually get below this 225. As you know, you can see on the chart here the amount of times it's attempted to get below 225 and hasn't really done so, hasn't been below that since 2023, right? So on Salesforce, I would argue the lower 200 range ideally would be the price that you would want to pay for ticker Salesforce, right? The lower 200 would be the area that you would want to go ahead and pay, right? So that's my thoughts on ticker Salesforce, right? The lower 200s would be the area that you would want to be a buyer at, right? Any questions on that? Any questions? The lower 200 area, that's where you will want to be a buyer at, particularly on Salesforce, right? Any questions there? Workday, I got you. So as you can see, let me clean this line up actually real quick. Oops. There we go. So Workday is actually heading downwards right now. Hold on, let me go here. On a monthly, we'll start on a monthly. So as you can see, we actually broke down. Workday was riding this trend here and it broke down in September of 2025, right? So peaked out up here at $300 a share. So you can see that expressed here. Workday actually started to make a move downward, right? So Workday, you can see it here. Price started to actually come and trickle here to the downside, right? So now when you're looking at Workday, Workday coming here, pulling back expecting, in my opinion, I would see Workday. I personally see Workday coming down to about 1 second. Let me actually pull this company up from a fundamental perspective before I give you specific price wise. Give me Workday real quick. All right, so down here to those levels at $130, this is more so something that looks like it's going into a distribution phase. So you can see that expressed here. Like Workday is looking like it's more so going in the distribution. So that's my initial thoughts. I don't know. Apologies, guys, on this Yahoo Finance today. I don't know why it's been tweaking since I woke up this morning. It's been acting funny today. So apologies on that. Try to figure that out for us. They don't want me going over these fundamentals, man. I don't know what's going on. We'll figure it out. But like I said, these are things that you can do with your companies, right? Planning your day out, right? And obviously, you don't have to trade every single day, but you should always start off with the indices first and work your way around, right? You should always start off with your indices first and work your way around. So if you're looking on the cues, this 626, 627, right? You're not going to actually be able to, see anything, right? No movement upward, right? Until you get over that. See, my brother Adrian asked me about UPS, United Parcel. Hold on 1 second. Pull that up for us. All right. UPS, go to this weekly time frame. So funny enough, where we rejected at is right where this diagonal trend line is. That's where we pull back at just a tad here. UPS is in a good spot. If you're thinking about long-term investing in UPS, really good company to actually think about buying. They're going through cost-cutting effective measures. So UPS, we know, is not a growth company. So no one's expecting to get a 300% banger from UPS. But as far as actually accumulating and building a position, that's obviously been recommended here inside the community. And it is within a massive falling wedge channel right now, right? It is within a massive falling wedge channel. Next one is NVO. This will be the last one. I got to knock out a couple things here this morning, so I got to jet off, but wanted to make sure I popped in and gave some value to you guys this morning. $65. Watch this, $65. You have earnings on February 4th for NVO. Put that down on your calendar or your notes for yourself. Really watch NVO. If we can break over this 65, guys, I'm getting really excited about it. I really am, because I'm like, it's happened a bit faster than maybe what I originally anticipated. Right. So I'm excited to see what's essentially next here on this name. I want to see, can we actually get a break? Want to see if we can actually get this break to the upside here over $65. So definitely keep your eyes peeled there. $65 a share on this specific name. So yeah. But I appreciate y'all. I'll post this recording for my people. I'll see you guys tonight. Be looking in the chat for the new Zoom call for tonight. I'll see you guys again tonight. I will be off on Thursday and Friday, but I will return as well. I will go ahead and return. We did look at Alibaba, but I'll give you some notes. Alibaba, you want to look for Alibaba over 175. If Alibaba can get over that, you're looking at the 180 to 183. So yep. But I'll post the recording as well so you can see it as well. But yep, we did touch on Baba for you. So yep. All right, y'all great people.